Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go pack go. Ain't show with no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will.
All right, welcome into Lombardi's Legends podcast. I am Wags. Joining me, as always, is Dane. Giving this a second try here tonight. It is my fault as the internet connection here went down. Part of the joys of doing a live stream podcast. Once in a while, you can run into technical difficulties. So if we threw anyone off there, please accept our sincerest apologies. But here we are recording here, Dane, on a Thursday evening. And Packers came off a big win on Sunday night to get to 6-6, squarely now in the playoff picture, controlling our own destiny. So, Dane, I got to say, first of all, how are you doing tonight? I'm trying to get you into the Instagram room here, but how are you doing tonight knowing that the Packers not only came away with a huge win at home on Sunday Night Football, second straight primetime win against the Kansas City Chiefs, but are now squarely in the playoffs if the season were to end today. And, we've got a bunch of work left to do, but I got to tell you, 2 months ago, I do not think that we would have been in this position. So quite a shock and quite a joy that we've had this turnaround, and here we are with the Packers with a chance now with a third straight primetime game on Monday Night Football against the New York Giants to get not only above 500, but to start to solidify their spot as a playoff team in the NFC. So, Dane, here you are. How you doing, man? We got you in here.
I'm so good, Wags. Happy Thursday night, folks. Happy Packer almost winning streak now, 3 out of 4, as you mentioned. And how could we not be pleased with this team? And you know what, Wags, I'll take a little bit of technical difficulties on the front end of our podcast because that's probably the biggest loss this Packers fan base has had in a little while. I couldn't be happier. For Jordan Love's improvement, with the offense's improvement, with Joe Barry and this defense. And you said it, this is the third straight nationally televised game. We saw them take care of business on Thanksgiving, where very few people gave them a chance to win. And then pretty much nobody gave them a chance to win on Sunday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs came to Green Bay. Guess what? Packers took care of business. And now we're looking at going on a 3-game win streak, and what would that be? 4 out of our last 5. The Packers are in playoff position. They win out, they're in. So all of that's to say, Wags, I feel like we're ahead of schedule now as an organization, as a team. Jordan Love has really rounded the corner. He's playing really inspired, great football for this Packers team, and these young guys are rallying around him. So I'm pumped to talk about tonight's game. We can reflect a little bit. I'm pumped to talk about Monday night's game, reflect a little bit on last week, and really look forward to Monday night. It's going to be another heck of a matchup going out to New York against the New York Giants, a team that's had some struggles, but we know in this league, never say never. So let's get into it, man. I mean, how are you feeling going into Monday night against a New York Giants team that's coming off a bye?
Yeah, bye, and even though you wouldn't know it by the record, 2 straight wins before the bye. So I'll say this. How could you not feel anything but phenomenal right now? As I said just before, Packers know now all of a sudden you're in a position where all you can do is get knocked down a rung. And so they've got work. They've got to build consistency, stack success, so to say. We're going to get this figured out here, Dane. But this is a game that on paper, Packers flat out should win. We should win this game against the New York Giants. You don't want to take anyone for granted, as you said, but Tommy DeVito still is the starting quarterback for the New York Giants. And so Tyrod Taylor is potentially available, but I think they're going to run with Tommy DeVito from everything I've been seeing. And he hasn't played bad football in the last couple of games that they've won. So not very good opponents, I'll grant you. Taking on a 2-win New England Patriots team and winning that game 10-7 before the bye, and a hapless Washington Commanders team that is really last in the league defensively, but they were able to do what they needed to do against a bad defense, albeit but to put up some points. So in this league, you can't take anyone lightly. But Dane, we've got really nice momentum. We do actually have a win streak. We won 3 in a row. So against some really quality opponents, I would be very disappointed if the Packers have a letdown on Monday Night Football going into New York against a team that, frankly, I think we outmatch on paper. But we should have all the respect for them in the world. They knocked us out last year when we went to London, and they were able to come back in the second half and steal a win. And that was kind of the start of a little bit of a slide last season against the Giants. So they're a well-coached team despite their record. Maybe they're showing a little bit of improvement, a little bit of a turnaround themselves, despite their opponents. Get a couple of wins and good things can start to happen, as we've just seen with this Packer team. So Dane, let's get into the injury report though, because I think that's going to really tell the bigger picture. It's not any shorter than it's been in recent weeks, but what's really highlight for you? What stands out to you when you're looking at the injury report, particularly from the Packers side of things?
Yeah, Wags, good question, and you're right. It's certainly not getting any shorter for this Packers team. And you know what? I think it starts again with guys that I think we can't expect to play. I don't think Aaron Jones obviously is going to be going this week. He was a limited participant, but I'd be shocked if he was able to go. Did not practice Darnell Savage. Now with a chest injury, I thought Wags, and I'm curious your take on this, but I thought he played some of the best football he's played in a number of games coming back from his injury. So remains to be seen if he's going to be available this week. Did not practice. Some encouraging news was Eric Stokes, who was a full participant, Wags, in practice this week. So Stokes, in my view, maybe ahead of schedule in getting back here. His window is larger than just this week to come back, but it looks like there's a real potential that he's able to go. So that one really sticks out. But then a couple other guys that did not practice, Christian Watson, who we saw go down with what we think, or what we know now is a hamstring injury. He said that, he doesn't think it's IR worthy, or something along those lines today, talking with media. But I think that, it's going to be another week or two. I think it's unlikely he goes this week. And then Quay Walker also did not practice this week with a shoulder injury. And then Jair Alexander. Listen, it might be shorter if we list who's healthy right now, but Jair Alexander, limited participant again. And actually I'm reading a comment right now. I think job practicing means nothing at this point. Dude has practiced for 2 weeks and then inactive on game week. That's Lethal Bars says that in our Insta comments. So, to that point, Jair has been practicing, at least in a limited fashion, but with this back injury, it's just really, really hard to see. So all of that's to say, Wags, from the Packers injury standpoint, a lot of dudes with a lot of different injuries. Can never totally know who's going to go and who's not going to go, but a lot of key players are banged up this time of year for every team. The Packers just happen to list them all. But I'd be very shocked if Aaron Jones goes this week. I'd be flabbergasted if Christian Watson went this week. Everybody else largely, I think, is up in the air.
Yeah. Dane, are you ready to have the conversation that we've had off and on about David Bakhtiari in reference to Jair Alexander? Like, is there an elephant in the room that we need to address? There seems to be some smoke that maybe Jair's not seeing eye to eye with the organization. Is it due to his injury? Different differences of opinion? Is there more going on there? And he's just not, on board with whatever Packers are doing, either organizationally or with the coaching staff. I don't know if we want to read too much into that. They're saying he's hurt, but to your point, a limited participant early in the week doesn't seem to mean much as far as their availability to play on Sunday or Monday. In past seasons, it seems like majority of the time, not always, when you see a guy that's a limited participant in the first practice of the week, if he continues to practice, usually they're ramping up to play on Sunday, unless they're coming off missing a few games or coming off the IR. Then you'll see a ramp up period where they might do limited participant, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, sit out that first week back, and then get another full week of practice. But Jair, I don't know, Dane. This is interesting. You say back, they're listing him with a shoulder injury, so maybe he's got a little of both going on. But you've been probably the more critical of us two is when it comes to Jair over the last couple of seasons. Should we be reading into this more than what's going on here, or what's your take on the situation?
I know nothing on the internal workings of this situation. I'm not going to pretend to know anything, but it feels odd at this point. And I'm not trying to make something out of nothing. The last thing I want is there to be any kind of controversy going on with the highest paid corner, one of them in the league and in the Packers. But the reality is Jair has been on and off in going. I thought the last year at times his output wasn't everything that we'd hoped it would be. And it's really hard when the Packers defense starts to go on a roll in his absence and he's still missing, game after game after game. So I don't know if it's a coaching thing. I don't know if you really just can't go. I don't know exactly what's going on here, but it is becoming fairly concerning that a high-priced guy and somebody that, should be a leader on this defense continues to not be able to go week in and week out, because we need all the help we can get on this defense. As a young team, we need to have our veteran guys be leaders out there, both on the field and in the locker room. And I'm not saying that's not happening. I'm just saying that it seems like there is a disconnect right now between Jair Alexander and the organization. I can't put my finger exactly on what it is, but something is going on here. It doesn't feel quite right. It's not passing the gut check for me at this point.
Yeah, and he's not been available to the media at times, even though he said he was going to talk. I think not maybe it was either last week or the week before. He said he was going to talk on Friday before the game, and just wasn't available all of a sudden last minute. So when things like that start happening, you start there's going to be speculation, yes, and we don't know exactly what's going on, but those things don't happen without reason either, Dane. So I know a lot of folks are going to say, well, let's not make any assumptions. We're not two guys that typically jump to conclusions. There's something there. I think it's safe to say, and maybe the Packers and Jair are handling it the right way internally, because nothing's really come out. You'd like to hope so, but hopefully he can get healthy and get out there. From a game standpoint, though, Dane, if Eric Stokes is ready to go, and I think John Stone makes a great point here. Thanks, John. I'm going to throw your comment up and on the screen here. Valentine have been doing great, and I completely agree with that. And heck, Keyshawn Nixon gets a game ball last week, making a beautiful interception on a read at the line of scrimmage from Patrick Mahomes. So these guys are really stepping up and playing some great football. Valentine got away with a PI at the end of the game against MVS. We're not going to argue that point. That said, getting Eric Stokes potentially back this week could be a nice lift, not only just from a depth standpoint, but I'd love to get Eric Stokes out there. Special teams, I think we talked about that as a potential way to ramp him up when he came back off the IR the first time. I think Eric Stokes can get out there for some different looks and some different packages. And frankly, I think it it helps us to move some of these guys around. I mentioned last week, as well as Ballantyne has played, and he really has played well. He's the guy that defenses are trying to key in on right now as the de facto weak link, not because he is a weak link or has been a weak link necessarily, but that's the guy that they've identified that they're going to try to attack. So Eric Stokes gives that a potential shield. And I think it makes it a little bit harder when you've got another guy out there with his pedigree to be able to cover up some things and maybe disguise some things that the Packers want to do on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, Lethal Bars and Insta Live says 37-35. So that, folks, is Valentine and Ballantyne, and 34. Jonathan Owens have been truly amazing the last 3 weeks, especially. Couldn't agree more. Marco, hey, go Pack, go. Are we staying in the playoffs? We'll be talking about it, Marco, but we're feeling good tonight, at least. But yeah, Wags, I think you're spot on. And what a good week to get Eric Stokes to work back in to the defense. I'm actually really encouraged to see the possibility that we get him back going on a Monday night game against the Giants. This is a Giants offense that has struggled massively at a number of fronts this year. You mentioned that DeVito, their undrafted third string quarterback who's made a few starts. I believe this would be his fourth or fifth start that he's going to make this coming Monday night. But this has been an offense that has largely struggled. It's struggled to protect the quarterback, and it's an offense that takes some time to get going. I mean, folks, one of the wins, I think they won 10-7 or 7-3 or something like that. I mean, I don't think they've scored more than 17 points more than once or twice this year. All of that's to say, what a great week, right, Wags, to get Stokes back in the fold, along with K9, along with Ballantyne, along with Valentine. You want depth at every position, but in the National Football League, you can truly never have enough good defensive backs and enough cornerbacks. So even at Wags, if, as you said, the Packers work Stokes back in to, on special teams, and then maybe some snaps, right, on defense, on some down and distance, and then some important drives, important moments. What a great way to do it. We're in a very fortunate position that I'm not sure we necessarily anticipated 4 or 5 weeks ago, where there's a lot of guys and we're not in a huge, massive rush to get Stokes back. But when he comes back, I think that he can make a real impact for this defense and really help out on the back end, especially against a Giants team that I think is going to have a lot of trouble against this Packers front end of the defense this week and bringing some heat against their rookie quarterback.
Yeah, and Dane, I think you just said it. Let's make them throw the football. So game plan this week has got to be to let's all gas, no breaks offensively.
Yeah.
And then on the defensive side of the ball, it's all about Saquon Barkley. Can Joe Barry and this defensive staff do something that they haven't done very well? Now the defense is playing great. I'm not going to take anything away from them.
Top 10.
But I'm talking about a offense that's not very good, that has one elite talented player as a running back, mind you. Can they single-handedly try to key on him and take him away? Because Tommy DeVito, I'll take my chances any day on him trying to complete throws. He's had a couple of nice games. Don't want to take anything away from him. He's an NFL caliber quarterback. Can he complete some of those passes? Sure. But I don't want to underemphasize this, Dane. The Giants have given up 69 sacks so far this year. That's far and away worse than anyone else in the league. And so if we can make them throw the football, the way that our defensive line and our edge pass rushers have been absolutely teeing off on some good offensive lines in the Chiefs and Lions the last couple of games, they should be able to feast on the Giants if they're going to have to be in lots of passing situations. And I'm not talking about just on third down. I'm talking about first and second down as well. So let's see if this Packer defense can rise to the occasion. Frankly, they played well. I can't really argue with the results of the game plan defensively last week, but I wasn't a huge fan of Isaiah Pacheco being able to just eat our lunch. And honestly, if the Chiefs would have been a little bit better in the red zone, we're talking about a much tighter game at the end. And so maybe that doesn't change the result from a win to a loss, but I don't want them playing with their food either. This is not a week where we've got Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. So that's a whole different proposition. That's a whole other argument. And you know what, Coach Barry, that's why you're the defensive coordinator and I'm not. I'm not going to give you a ton of more credit in most normal circumstances for the game plan that you devised against the Chiefs last week. Bravo, man. You came up with a plan that I wouldn't have, and it worked. So that's fantastic. This week, it's Tommy DeVito at quarterback. Let's make him throw that football. I don't want to see Saquon Barkley getting 20 carries, getting 100 plus yards this week. We've got to shut down that Giants run game because I don't think that they're going to be able to do much passing the football. And frankly, the way that our defensive line and our edge guys have been getting after it, I think Tommy DeVito is going to be fumbling. I think he's going to be on the ground on his back an awful lot if we're able to do any semblance of shutting down Saquon Barkley on Monday night.
Yeah, I'm laughing, I'm smiling, A, because of what you're saying, Wags, and B, on the Insta chat. Alan, my buddy, says, Joe Barry runs a top 10 defense. What timeline is this? I like that comment. That's fantastic, Alan. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible. Lethal Bar says 100% agree with Wags. Stop the run and make Tommy beat you. That's the way to do it, Wags, right? And this is a huge other piece. So we talked about the Packers injury report, but on the Giant side of things, the one that really stands out to me is Evan Neal. You talked about how poor the offensive line play has been for the New York Giants. That was with Evan Neal in. Evan Neal is a starting offensive tackle for the Giants. He didn't practice today. This is an offensive line that's already struggling significantly, and now they could be down another, guy that they've deemed to be better than all the other guys in one of the worst offensive lines in football. So, Wags, you said it, right? Take away the run, make Tommy DeVito beat you through the air, and really, if you can key in every way possible on Saquon Barkley, I will take our chances, as you said, every single day and twice on Sunday and hell 3 times on Monday night if Tommy DeVito's got to drop back 25, 30 plus times and throw that football. I love our chances. But this is a week where Joe Barry, let's not get cute. Let's not overthink things. Let's not do this 2 down lineman stuff. Let's get some guys in the box, stop Barkley at all costs, and then make the Giants beat us through the air.
Okay, Dane, I'm going to ask a question, and you can laugh at this, but any chance there's some gamemanship and it's actually Tyrod Taylor that we see on Monday night? And if there is, does it change anything? Honestly, does it change anything from a game plan perspective?
No, Tyrod Taylor, maybe 5 years ago, he was a little more athletic and was able to move around in the pocket a little bit more. He's just a different guy, right? 5 years ago, as far as just athletically. But no, I don't honestly think so at this point. I get the sense too that there's a little bit of a fracture among him and the coaching staff. He had some public comments this week, and I don't have them in front of me, but he sounded like he's ready to go and is disappointed, to say the least, that he is not going to be the guy this week. I don't think they're doing all of that smoke and mirrors this week. I get what the Giants are doing. And if I were the Giants, I'd probably do the same thing, right? DeVito, they want to see what they have in an undrafted rookie quarterback that's just won 2 straight. Now he has a week during a bye to prep going into a Monday night game. Why would you go back to a, veteran 1-year contract quarterback that they've had mixed success with when he's been on the field, when you have that unknown quantity that now you have the ability to take a longer look at? Why wouldn't they do that, right? It makes too much sense. I don't think that there's much gamesmanship going on there. Now, I'm not saying that Tyrod Taylor doesn't make an appearance on Monday night if things go south really quickly, but I do think that this is a Tommy DeVito game and game plan, and that's where the concerns that I have going into it. It's not DeVito, it's not this Giants offense. It's just there isn't a lot of tape on this young man. And we've seen it time and again in the NFL that guys that don't have a lot of tape can kind of catch lightning in a bottle for a week or 2 or 3 weeks. Now, he hasn't lit the world on fire in his wins, as I've mentioned, but even that being said, Wags, I could see this being a week with a young Packers team, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody individually, and we haven't seen it happen, but this is a young Packers offense, a young Packers largely defense, where, you know, maybe they come into this game going, oh, look at us, we're beating all these good teams, we're going to just do it again, right? So I'm hopeful that Coach LaFleur, this coaching staff, and the guys in this locker room understand that there's still a lot of work to be done, and that they're just getting started, and that, you know, their Super Bowl wasn't last week on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. They've got to keep doing it if they want to make some hay and make it into the playoffs. So that's my biggest concern. I think you're right on paper. This is a Packers team that is significantly better than this New York Giants football defense or this New York Giants football offense, this team. But you know, there's a lot more, and that's why they play the games on Sunday. And that's why the term any given Sunday is a real term, because this team can beat the Packers if the Packers don't come in prepared, if they don't come in mentally prepared, or if they don't have the right game plan.
Yeah, sure. So Dane, let's talk a little bit then about what the Packers have been doing that's been working. Let's stick on the offense side of the ball. We've talked injuries, we've talked what the Giants can do and what we expect the game plan to do. But honestly, I've just been so pleased with the way the Packers have been throwing the football, just executing just so crisply. Jordan Love's accuracy has gotten better and better every week. But more than that, it seems like he and his receivers have gotten much more aligned and on the same page than what they were earlier in the season. And clearly we're seeing that in the results, right? Yeah. But more than that, it's that we're getting multiple guys involved. It's all over the field. Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson gets going. Certainly, I don't think he's going to be playing this week with the hamstring, but we've gotten involvement from all over the field. Young tight ends now too, and so it's not just Musgrave, but we've got Tucker Kraft and Ben Sims that have stepped up the last couple of weeks. So this is just, I think, such a huge development for a young offense. I think all of these guys are so hungry. And so one thing about a young team is that can drive inconsistency in the results. But on the flip side, having a young team, there's not as much complacency when you're playing. You're looking at the other team and you're saying, oh, they're 4-8. They're not as good. A veteran team, sometimes that can be that quote unquote trap game. I don't think we're going to get that with this young Packers team this year. So that tells me, and I would be very surprised, especially on another primetime game on Monday night, if the Packers don't come out ready to go and guns blazing, passing that football. If we have another week without Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon has been looking better, but frankly, it's pushing all the right buttons in the pass game that seems to be establishing a rhythm on the offensive side of the football.
It's such a good point, and we'd be remiss not to mention the free agent signing this week because it came up in the chat, and I'm scrolling to see who said it, but somebody was asking, do we think Kenyon Drake, who the Packers signed at running back, is going to be up this week? I mean, he's practicing. He's out there this week on the field with Aaron Jones likely unable to go. I thought Patrick Taylor, Wags, played a really nice football game last week, had a couple of really strong carries, really good in blitz pickup for them. But I love the ad of somebody like Drake, who, you know, a veteran guy, somebody who's had a lot of success in this league, kind of a steady hand for this Packers team. If nothing else, he's a competitor. So I really like what the Packers are doing, and what I like what Goody's been doing, Wags. Well, first of all, you mentioned all these young guys. All these guys are what, 24 and younger, pretty much. How good has the last two drafts been for Goody as far as like completely rebuilding, the skill possession offensive group, right? All these wide receivers are so young. None of them are what, like first round picks. They're all second round and beyond. You mentioned Musgrave, who's down this year, but it just has such a bright future. Tucker Kraft, You mentioned Ben Sims and Wags. How cool is to see somebody like Ben Sims, undrafted guy, Vikings in training camp, comes to Green Bay and has, a really a lot of success here. Malik Heath, another guy who had a nice wiggle last week. So this is an extremely competitive offense and an extremely competitive skill position group. And then Mike mentions in our comments that the O-line doesn't fold like Slinky, will be all right. And that's really at the core. The offensive line, Wags, has gotten better. We've watched this team, and when they struggled this year, it was when we were seeing revolving door at the tackles and when we were seeing just breakdowns along the offensive line. And what we've seen the last few weeks and what makes all of this mix and work so well, it is, of course, these skill position guys and these young running backs and everybody, but what it comes down to at its core is this offensive line has found a way to unite and play really good football together, win at the line of scrimmage. And that has allowed Jordan Love to sit back in that pocket and let the football rip and find the guys. And yes, his accuracy's gotten better, but it's very clear his trust in his receivers and in his offensive line is significantly better. And now we can see some of that talent and some of that skill from this young guy. I still don't totally understand how this Packers team can be rotating left tackles the way that they've done it, or rotating right guards. It's just such a unique situation, but the end result's the same. The running game has been good enough, even when Aaron Jones has been down, and Jordan Love has had time to strike and throw and see the field and make the correct read. So going into this week against the Giants, Wags, the game plan, I think, remains the same. Stay aggressive. Let Jordan cook, for a lack of a better term. I think early in the year, this offensive coaching staff really wanted Jordan to kind of keep it within the margins, right? And kind of check down and play safe. And over the last few weeks, we've clearly seen they just am letting him sling that football around. And what we've seen is just a ton more success, not only in stats, but in wins. So this week going into New York, Wags, it's crazy. For years on this podcast, you and I are always like, we need to establish the run. We said it with Aaron Rodgers. With Jordan Love right now, what I want to see is I want to see this guy stay aggressive and push the ball downfield and utilize these young receivers and not rely on one guy the way that, he hasn't done. And it was a really good, astute point on your part. He's not relying on one guy. He's just spraying the field. Whoever's open, that's the appropriate read, is getting the ball. And I just love that he is going back to the well with whoever's open. So that to me is the strategy yet again this week, Wags. Take what the defense gives you and let Jordan Love have the ball in his hands and be aggressive and tack downfield.
Yeah, Dane, I think one of the things that we could talk a little bit about is how they're using Henry Pearson, and 44 has gotten
I'm proud of us on
up.
this.
Yeah, we've been consistent on this point all season, but this isn't a small thing. Not only has he gotten called up, he's getting a lot of snaps, and frankly, I think it's a big part of the resurrection of the pass game the last couple of weeks. You might say, well, Wags, wait a second. How could Henry Pearson, fullback, who isn't really getting any targets at all in the pass game, part of resurrecting it? Because they're using him as a motion guy. And our buddy Smith pointed this out. 3 straight motions last week. Same look, 3 different plays. So the thing is, it's not just motion. Packers have used lots of guys with motion, and that can be something that can be beneficial in lots of different ways. But I think specifically to Henry Pearson, what that's doing is even though the Packers aren't using the run to set up the pass, it's the threat of the run by having the fullback be the motion guy that the defense really has to respect. So Henry Pearson is laying wood as a blocker, and they're looking, and they've got to be aware of where he's going when they're doing pre-snap motion. And if they've got a run look, Packers have been able to be efficient running the ball the last 2 weeks. AJ Dillon, he's not lighting the world on fire, but certainly he's taken advantage of his opportunities. In the Lions game, he was a little dinged up, and but he was able to be effective as a pass catcher out of the backfield as well. So I think the point is I really think the Packers have found something from a personnel standpoint with having Henry Pearson as a fullback out there and being a primary motion guy, because now the defense, that split second, especially at the second level with those linebackers, they can't be crashing down or spreading out based on the situation. Is this a run or is this a pass? They've got to be aware of where Henry Pearson is as a blocker, first and foremost. So that's going to make them respect the play action a lot more. And we've been seeing Jordan Love become more and more efficient and effective in those play action situations, attacking down the field, on the sidelines, and down the middle. And I think Henry Pearson is not only a big key for what he's doing out there from an execution standpoint, but from a schematic standpoint, I think he's being a real difference maker for this Packer offense. And I want to highlight that, not only because we love Henry Pearson on this podcast, but because I actually believe it with what I'm seeing out there and what I'm seeing on the film.
I mean, at what point do they call him up, right, and put him on the 53? Because I couldn't agree more. And he's had 2 call-ups from the practice squad, Wags, and it feels like, first of all, I couldn't agree more. But it doesn't not feel like this is maybe something we're going to see more of, not only this year, but in the future for this organization. Like, he's giving them a look, as you said, that is just unique. He's also just a hard-nosed player. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm curious your take, but I wouldn't be surprised from a roster standpoint if Pearson isn't on this 53 before the season's out, because I think he does add that extra piece of he solidifies the run game in a way that they haven't been able to do without his services this year.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know how much he's actually done for the run game. He's doing a great job throwing out those elite blocker. The numbers in the run game aren't saying that it's been a difference maker the last 2 games, but it takes 11 to get a run game going. That said, I just feel like the play action and what they're doing with him schematically is definitely adding another layer and another dimension. And how many layers of the onion are they able to add to that? And that's the exciting thing, is they can give a lot more looks. And technically, yeah, they could consider him a tight end. There's other tight ends that they could use. DeGuara, especially is another guy that they could use in a similar fashion to that. But clearly they like what Henry Pearson's giving them and the look that he's giving them and the execution that he's giving them. So I agree, whether he's another call up this week or not, I think they're going to be hard pressed not to make a roster move and add Henry Pearson to 53-man roster, if not this week, probably by next week.
Looking, before we turn a new leaf here on this pod and talk about our X factors, our Leap Spirits X factors, is there anything else offensively against this Giants defense in particular, any matchups that you see? Because I think we both probably agree that this, on paper, this Packers team matches very well favorably against this Giants defense, especially with how much fire they've caught lately. But without Christian Watson, do you think that how do you see that maybe impacting this game?
That's a great question, Dane. We're going to have to get probably a little bit more out of Dontavian Wicks if Christian Watson's out. I think he's kind of the de facto, guy behind Christian Watson as far as how they want to utilize him, those guys in the offense. It's disappointing for Christian because he's taken some criticism for being a little bit inconsistent. Dude's been battling more than his share of injuries, but hey, being healthy in this league is a skill as far as I'm concerned, and being available. So you can call it bad luck, call it whatever you want. It's unfortunate, especially since he's really gotten rolling here in the last couple of weeks. But I think the Packers offensively are well suited. Would it be better to have Christian Watson out there? Absolutely. But I think they're well suited to be able to work around the absence of Christian Watson for a game or two with the emergence of some of these other guys. Particularly, you mentioned Malik Heath. In the last few games, he's been getting more and more snaps, even with Christian Watson out there. So I think between Heath and Dontavian Wicks, they can replace a lot of what Christian Watson is giving you. Maybe not purely from that vertical element, but quite honest with you, That hasn't been a very high percentage of success most of this season anyway. So if we're missing some verticality against this Giants team, that should not be the difference between winning and losing in this game, in my opinion. Let's go out there and continue to execute crisp routes and work the field both horizontally and vertically, work the middle of the field, give these Giants lots of different looks. They're not the worst team on the defensive side of the football. So I don't expect Packers to go out there and hang 40 on the Giants this week. But it's really the struggle for the Giants is on the offensive side of the football. So frankly, this is a week we've been saying what's the number that they need to get to. If the offense honestly puts up 20 points and we get maybe a defensive opportunity to score, or a special teams opportunity to score, that should be more than enough this week. I would be awfully disappointed if Packers score 20 or more points and that doesn't result in a W this week. Would I love to see them just continue to light the world on fire and just hang a huge victory up over this Giants team? Absolutely. But what I'm saying is if we can get to 20 or more points, that should be more than enough to secure a victory against the Giants this week.
It's so funny, Wags, the NFL and how it works. If you told me in August, and we loved Heath and Wicks in August, right? But if you told me in August that Packers are currently, it's December 7th, the Packers as of today are in the playoffs, and we were like, yeah, Christian Watson's down, but we think Wicks and Heath are really, it's going to be okay. Like, I'd be like, this is pretty awesome. So let's count our blessings on that one. It's really cool to, see this young receiving core just seize the day and seize the opportunity. If you have anything else, chime in now. Otherwise, I think we should get to the Leap Spirits X Factors of the week.
Yeah, let's do it. Leap Vodka is who is sponsoring our X Factor of the week. And so if you do not have Leap, you should have it in your liquor cabinet immediately. It's perfect for any type of Packer game day, pregame, postgame celebration. We're going to be mixing up a few different cocktail recipes for you. I don't care if it's Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday night. It's so versatile. There's so many things that you can do with it. And frankly, Dane, it's delicious. It's my favorite vodka. So we have to get to that Leaps Vodka X Factor of the week. Offensive side of the ball, Dane. I'll let you lead things off. Who do you have as your X Factor this week?
Yeah, it is Dontavian Wicks. He's a guy who's just been phenomenal for this Packers team. Has stepped up, has had some big moments. And Wags, with Christian Watson down, I think that Wicks is primed for not only moving the chains, but I think he's probably getting in the end zone for this Packers offense as well. But he's a guy that I think has really, really good energy and a rapport with Jordan Love. So for all those reasons, how could he not be my Leap Vodka X Factor this week?
All right. I'm not frowning because I don't like your pick. I'm frowning because you keep stealing the guys I was going to pick. All right. But that's okay. Not to worry. I'm happy to go in another direction here. I've got backup selections. Dane, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to Romeo Doubs this week. I think Romeo has been pretty solid most of this season, especially in the red zone. He's come up with some key catches in big situations. So he's been very involved. But he hasn't had that true breakout game where he's just put the team on the back, 100 plus yards, 5 to 7 plus catches, maybe a touchdown, maybe 2 touchdowns. I don't want to get too carried away here, but maybe this is a week. We talked about Jordan Love spreading it out. I think he can continue to do that. But if Christian Watson's down this week, and I think I love your pick with Wicks, by the way, and I think some of these other guys can make a big contribution. You don't have to convince me to talk about Jaden Reed. But I'm just going to say this. I think Romeo Doubs is due. I just think he's overdue to have one of those just big weeks And this is Packers offense that's started to be pretty successful the last few weeks. So I think we're going to see a big week from Romeo Dobbs. So for that reason, I'm going to pick him as my Leap Vodka X factor on the offensive side of the ball.
Tremendous. Wags, we are in fuego yet again. If you would have gone first and taken Wicks, Romeo was my backup selection. So I love this. And because I took yours, and I feel like I have been stealing some of yours these last few weeks, I think I have to let you go just to make sure that we have harmony on this Packers podcast. So defensively, who do you have as your Leap Vodka player of the week or X Factor of the week on the defensive side?
Yeah, man, you're such a gentleman, I tell you. I've got so many favorites that it's hard for you not to steal some of my picks. I'll be perfectly honest with you, Dane. But okay, defensive side. All right, I'm not going to think about this too hard. I'm going to go back to Carrington Valentine, and he's been playing great football. Why do I have him as your X factor? Do you ask? Because I just like Romeo Dobbs, except on the defensive side, I think Carrington Valentine is overdue for a big interception. He's been all over some opportunities. He's gotten, I think, a couple interceptions this year, if I remember correctly. But I just have a little bit of feeling. And Dane, I want to remind our audience that we've been pretty spot on with our X factor and score predictions for the most part this year. So maybe one or both of us will be right on both of these X factor picks. But Carrington Valentine, not because I think, the Giants are a real threat from a passing situation, but just because I think he could come up with a big play and put a stamp on this game, and a kid could have a nice opportunity to show a national audience again that we've got a bunch of young up and coming players on both sides of football.
Wags, so you went with a rookie with Carrington Valentine, undrafted rookie, right? Carrington was undrafted.
Seventh round pick.
Seventh round pick. Thank you. Yes. So I'm going to go rookie on the opposite side of the draft spectrum, and I'm going to go with Lucas Van Ness as my Leap Vodka X Factor this week. And the reason's clear. The Giants' offensive line has struggled all year. I thought last week Lucas Van Ness had another couple really nice plays. He's putting it together. He's getting more and more consistent week in and week out. And this week, Wags, we talk about somebody opposite of Rashawn Gary, who's going to be the guy week to week. I think that we are starting to watch Lucas Van Ness emerge as the other guy week to week, being the consistent pass rusher, being the consistent guy that can help stop the run against somebody as talented as Saquon Barkley. So, Wags, Lucas Van Ness continues his ascension as this defense continues to build heat and build steam. Monday Night Football, we see a national on national TV, a coming out party for him. I expect him to get more than one sack this week. Lucas Van Ness is going to be my Leap Vodka X Factor this week because I think he can blow things up against this New York Giants offensive line.
I love that. And I'll be honest with you, I really wanted to pick someone on the edge or the defensive line, but it's not like I'm going to pick Rashawn Gary again. I liked that I did that a couple weeks ago. I will say though, if Lucas Van Ness gets a couple sacks this week, I think Rashawn Gary is going to get a couple sacks this week. I think Kenny Clark or someone, Colby Wooden or Carl Brooks or someone on that defensive line could get a sack or a sack and a half or two. This could be a sack fest this week if our game plan comes to fruition, Dane. And with that could be a nice Carrington Valentine pick six. I don't know. I'm just saying. Let's work and collaborate and do some teamwork together on our X Factor prediction. I think we just did that, Dane. It just happened. I'm satisfied with that result. Is all I'll say. Okay, score predictions. You're going to go first this week because you've been the one predicting all of these crazy high offensive scores. So I'm curious to see what direction you go in this week with the Giants and this offense that seems to be putting up about 13 to 15 points every game.
Yeah, and yes, and folks, drop it in the chat. I'm seeing some chats now, some score predictions. We'll read them all off. I like Mike in our Insta chat says talking about Van Ness, low grade Bosa on the other side of Gary. Watch out, low grade for now, Mike. We think Van Ness, his stock is just continuing to trend upwards. And D Costmeyer 94 says we finally figured it out. For now, LOL. Yeah, that is the NFL, and that is a Packer fan if I've ever heard one with that comment. John Stone in the chat on Facebook drops in Pack 41, Giants 6. John, I love the prediction. I hope you're right. I'm bullish. I'm not quite that bullish, but I'm extremely bullish this week. 31-17, the Packers go on Monday Night Football, take care of business against the Giants. The Giants get a little bit more than they've kind of gotten recently on offense. They get 17, but the Packers just go in, take care of business. This offensive firepower is too much. The Packers defense is going to overpower and overmatch, I think, this Giants offense and give the Packers offense the ball in really good field position throughout the game. So I think that there's a lot of factors at play, maybe some special teams positivity for this Packers team as well. K9 heating up on defense. I think K9's due for one to take one back one of these days as well. He's been looking electric with the ball in his hands. So 31-17, Packers taking care of business, winning this game on Monday Night Football.
Dane, your special teams touchdown too, in addition? Or
Special
am
teams
I the only one
maybe.
predicting the defensive touchdown? Well, if I'm going to predict a defensive touchdown, this is the week that I'm finally predicting the Packers to score more than 30 points in a game. Not because I think the Giants are the worst defense that we played. Quite the contrary. But if we're going to get a defensive touchdown, I think this gets away from the Giants. And I'm sorry, if I'm going to be a complete homer, this is the time to do it. The way the Packers, they just came up, they just beat the Chiefs. They just beat the Lions. The Chargers, whatever. But 3 straight wins, 3 big wins, and there's a lot to love about what's going on with the Packers right now. And if we're going to get a defensive touchdown this week, if we're going to keep going and getting in a rhythm offensively, I think the Giants are going to be hard pressed on the offensive side of the football to maintain possession, to be quite honest with you. So this has blowout all over it. Dane, I've got Packers 34-10. I'm not going to quite go to John's level, but 34-10 this week for the Packers. Big win on Monday Night Football. And we're going to officially be talking about the Packers as one of the hottest teams in the NFL. Granted, not against a good Giants team, but I think 4 straight wins, going and putting a stamp on it with this little primetime football streak with a big win against the New York Giants on Monday night. 34-10 is my score prediction.
Wags, you're getting me hyped up. And not only me, my mom just chimed in on our Facebook chat saying she's glad you're getting on board with the over 30 points gang.
Your mom is probably sick of me giving you crap for predicting the Packers are going to score over 30 points. So I completely understand. So I can't give you any grief anymore for making those predictions. So here we are. What can I say? I'm officially on board with the Packers offensively and what they did, especially last week against the Chiefs. You can't underrate how good that Chiefs defense has been. I know that in years past that's been kind of their weak point, but that's a good defense of the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Packers just looked phenomenal on the offensive side of football last week. So that's not just a flash in the pan or a 1 week thing. It's been multiple weeks now, and my eyes tell me that they've got some things figured out on the offensive side of football.
Yeah. So Monday Night Football, then we'll be back next week, Thursday, breaking down the next week and talking a little bit about this Monday night game. Folks, remember, go on all of our social, Insta, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, right? Find us, rate us, review us, share with your friends. Remember, it's also Pro Bowl voting. So get out there and vote some of our guys in. Rashawn Gary's been phenomenal. Hey, vote for Jordan Love. Let's get Jordan in that Pro Bowl. Hey, let's talk about some of these other guys. Rudy Ford's got 59 tackles and 2 picks at safety. Get the dude in, folks. Like, let's do it across the board. Let's get our Packer pals into the Pro Bowl. I think it helps across, for everybody if they're getting in. So go there, vote now. It's limited, so we need to be able to make sure we're getting these Packers in the Pro Bowl.
Jaden Reed, vote for Jaden Reed. That's all I've got to say. I love all our Packers, but Jaden Reed, let's get him as Pro Bowl votes right here in the rookie season. He's putting up the numbers. He's got the look. So I'm going to continue to promote. So that'll be my promotion for the week. Folks, thanks so much for listening. Thanks for jumping in and joining in the chat. Love all of you guys. As always, be legendary and go Pack, go.
Pack, go.
Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go Pack go. Ain't show with no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I wish